Oh, Sheila. Everything good?
Yeah, everything's good so far. She was all on,
Okay.
stuff I'm ready to go for this. Obviously, I have roads and,
So our roads are fine, it's the drivers. Because, you know, if 106, 55 would be fine, but some days I come, it's 30. Oh, well. Is this related to a program from UNH?
Cassie's in charge of it.
Hi, Cassie.
Hi.
How are you? I'm Dave.
Dave?
Yeah,
Nice to meet you, Dave.
nice to be met. Hi, Cassie. I'm Dave.
I'm Suzanne. How are you?
Suzanne. So far, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
So he was
Is
asking,
this related to UNH at all?
Nope, we're a separate nonprofit. We work with groups like UNH and schools and
Yeah.
all of them.
Because UNH does something similar.
Not that I know.
Then we go
They-
across, when we go across the ocean?
oh, the other program.
The drifters?
What's the other one?
They do boat building, but they don't send them to us. The autonomous vessels, maybe?
There are boats that, you know, kids build for, I don't know, $150, but they pay, UNH pays for the boats.
Sea perch,
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah.
the little ROVs,
And then
little
they go
robots.
across the ocean, and you track them going over, and someday they end up in England. They track them with the GPS, and you track where they are, and where they're going, and where they've been, kind of monitoring currents and different things, winds and currents.
That's our program,
That
yeah.
sounds like
I'm not
Cassie.
aware of UNH having a
Well,
SEG program.
let me say this,
Huh.
maybe it was your program.
Yes.
It was at UNH.
Yes.
That was.
So,
We don't have any ends
Day.
there.
yeah, Ocean Discovery
Yeah,
Day?
maybe we have a.
Then it was Cassie.
I'm not really one of the.
Right, so they invited like
Got
local,
it,
yes.
got it. So I learned about it.
Yes, right, at the
I
CCOM,
probably
the place,
have
the
no
mapping
problem.
group, yes, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
very fascinated.
Yeah, cause, so they have their own autonomous boats that they're doing
Okay.
like seafloor mapping, so that was
Yeah,
what
yeah,
one
right.
thing I was on.
Okay, well, that's good, I'm glad I got that.
But they also do the sea perch that was right next to us, the big pool,
Yeah.
and it's like the little robots,
Yeah.
but those are probably the.
should we be starting now, or?
So anyway, I need, you still do it.
All, that's what we're here to
Oh,
chat
okay,
about, right?
Once you come
I
out.
was interested then, but I
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
couldn't get it cooking.
Sure, well, no, and, I mean, she wrote the grant back in 2018, got the funding to do hers, so
Yeah,
it
so
takes
I
time.
need-
What schools do
Well,
you
I
work
am,
with?
I only am at Belmont High School. In Belmont, okay.
Fancy.
Our accountant lives in Belmont, actually.
Yeah,
She's in Wyndham.
And we,
so you're south,
Yeah.
exit 3-ish,
yep,
and where are you, Cassie?
I live in Northwood.
Northwood, not Northfield.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
Northwood
right off
is
Route
on
4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in Pembroke.
Didn't you have school today? Was it there? Northfield, Northwood, did you have school, or?
I don't know, I was
Well, there are
in
8
Portsmouth
tickets
for the day.
We
were delivering
like
a boat.
6 schools that didn't have school today. I think that's
Canceled
one
for
of
the
them.
snow. It didn't stick.
You predicted, no.
Yeah.
It was fine, I was up in Lincoln last night, so I drove from Lincoln down to Belmont. Well, that was in the morning, I mean, I
Yeah.
left at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I leave school at 7. So.
What are you doing at school?
It was fun. What was fun? I teach STEM stuff.
Perfect.
So, we're so excited to have you back again, another day, day 2. And we're so excited to find out more about the mini boats, and I think, like, at least for me, having that sort of joy of it being found during the pandemic, I thought was such like a great moment to connect globally. So I'm gonna introduce our 3 guests. So we have, and if I say your name wrong, I am sorry. Cassie Stymist, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, from Educational Passages. Sheila Adams, godmother extraordinaire in our house, but also an incredible retired teacher from Rye Middle. And then Suzanne Cronin from Wyndham. Thanks.
We're just gonna go right,
Just hit the right button. You're good.
okay?
So Educational Passages is a nonprofit. It started in Maine about 10 years ago, actually, in 2023. And it started with this idea from a retired sailor to send little boats that he didn't have to go on with a GPS tracker and see where they go. So we made very small boats, about this big, and I think the GPS units were bigger than the boat at that point. And over time, we've launched 185 of these. They're now almost 6 feet long, but the students are building them in the classroom or educational setting and doing all the work to prepare them, put messages inside. And we have the website to share the story, to push those tracks out so everyone can follow along. So you see the diagram there, the different parts to the boat. And for perspective, some students with a boat in Galway, Ireland, there on the bottom. Some students working on installing the GPS on the bottom right. The top right is a boat from Rhode Island with a lobsterman who sent that boat out that ended up coming right back. I have 185 stories, actually more than that, because lots of times boats are relaunched for a couple times. So there's just hundreds of stories to share. Thousands of students that have been involved, and we'll tell you a couple stories of some of those students and some of those stories. So it starts with a 6-foot-long kit, a very 6-foot-long box of all the supplies and the boat parts. The boats are kind of pre-made by professional boat builders. They lay some fiberglass and foam in molds that we have in Maine. And we send the hull and keel that's attached, the deck and the hull, and then the keel is separate, the mast, the sail, all of these parts are made, and we send them to the classroom for them to do the work. And I will tell you what work that, you guys will tell what work that is. So we build them, we launch them, we learn, we track them, and again, as much as we can over and over again, relaunch them, send them back out, and make as many connections as we can. Just a couple examples and tracks of boats. Is the program started here in New England. We've launched most of them in the Atlantic Ocean, but over the last couple years, we've launched a couple dozen in the Pacific and a couple in the Indian Ocean. And 2 months ago, we just launched our first in the South Atlantic, which was south of the equator, and it's just really exciting. There's lots of opportunities and new milestones to make. About 75% of boats we send out make land. That's that we know of, and currently, because even if the GPS stops, the boats are still out there traveling. So it's just a matter of time to find out what is happening to them and where they go. The boat on the bottom right is the Sacred Heart Star of the Sea. It's actually from Massachusetts, from Kingston, and they got to work with a scientist from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution that had what they call a broader impact. So he was a geologist. They were heading to the Marian Rise to study the rocks at the very bottom of the ocean. And they paid for the boat kit. The students got to build the boat, put the GPS in, and they shipped it to Cape Town, South Africa, and took it with them on this big giant research vessel to the Marian Rise, which is here. There they are launching the boat. And this is the Indian Ocean, and it went all the way over We thought it was gonna stay around the bottom of the earth, but nope, it went north and ended up in Western Australia. Flash forward to lots of repairs, because there was some damage to that mast. And that boat is right now heading south of Hobart, Australia, on its way to be launched in the Southern Ocean in days. So, very exciting. And all of these boat tracks are available online on the Educational Passages website. And anybody can follow them, anybody can track them, and there's dozens out there at a time. This school year, we have a dozen boats joining the fleet, and there's some very creative names that the students get to decide. And so you'll hear about the Wildcat Wave today, and also the Riptides. I don't know how to press play.
Oh. Just click on it. There you go.
Okay. This is just a quick recap video I did for the new year to kind of celebrate what we did in 2022. It's not loading. We had 44 deployments. We worked with 60 classes. We had that South Atlantic launch, and lots of partners and collaborations. I'll have to skip the video.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you build a boat? Miss Cronin.
All right, well, I currently have just finished the boat building process, today, in fact. So, we have, just a few hours ago, actually. Today we were able to bring our boat almost fully finished to Newington and be able to close it up. So let's start with the beginning part, and then we'll end up with today. So we started out by receiving our kit. Actually, Sheila and Cassie came to my school to deliver that 6-foot package on the hottest day ever. It was like 100 degrees and we were melting as we're wheeling this boat inside. It was gleaming white and beautiful. I have I'm the digital literacy teacher at Wyndham Center School, and they're 5th and 6th graders. We have about 400 students in our building. Boy Scouts, 2 Boy Scouts were able to build and provide us with this beautiful outdoor classroom, where a lot of our preparation took place. You see down here in the bottom, these 2 boys are pulling together, 3, a boy and a girl, pouring the sand and the resin together that's going to fill the keel of the boat. Cassie talked about it coming in with the mast, and then the deck and the hull, and then the keel. So they're pouring together that awfully smelly resin to put it together. And in that photo on the left, that's a 5th grader. So mainly my 6th graders were able to work on it and do the hands-on part. And the 5th graders were able to work on the sail. I had 4 girls that came in recess and lunch and worked on our sail. You'll see it came out actually beautiful. So here we are. We've done a lot of things to put it together. Decorating, we held name, to get our name, we polled the students, had them vote, we tracked that data. We worked on knot tying to give them some more hands-on. My husband and I took another romantic date to Home Depot to build these little knot tying stations that we put on our table. We practiced tying different types of knots used in sailing. We used a sewing machine to create a sling for our boat to sit in. How many kids had never used a sewing machine was pretty interesting, and they were like, when are you bringing that back? We talked about the area of the cargo hold with our math interventionalists that came in and started talking about area. They were able to build the boat rack out of PCV piping. I literally threw them out on the floor in my classroom and said, you're to use these to build a boat rack. They were already cut. They were numbered. They had little numbers of where they would fit together, but it took them a very long time to figure that out. They struggled and actually started building it vertically, which I thought was very interesting. And I was like, guys, those are wheels. Should they be in the sky? So we figured out it had to go on the ground, and they were able to put it together. A lot of fun with that process. Then we're outside again. There's the keel being held up, which is a great strategy, that file holder. to be pouring it in, and then there they are here putting in the epoxy and stuff so that we'll put the keel and the boat together. And then we got to sand, everybody's favorite part. Everybody did some sanding of the boat. So this is how we got that many students involved. And then outside, and I think the thing has about 20 coats of paint because everybody wanted to paint. And it was a beautiful blue color.
How many students?
We have 400 in our school, so about 200 of them actively participated in this part. Yeah, yeah. And this is one of my favorite photos. It's because they kept on asking us why we need to put this on, because this photo right here, if you don't have an anti-fouling bottom paint, this is what tends to stick to your boat and will weigh it down by 250 pounds.
So those are muscles attached to it.
Interesting.
Not on our boat. Ours got enough paint to last it years. So here we are. Here we had the students submit sketches on what they think the sail should look like. We had a contest. The teachers helped narrow it down, and then we made a Google form and put it out to our population and had people vote. It ended up being for 5th graders. So that's what our sail ended up looking like. We have the birch tree for the state tree, the purple finch, Mount Washington, our logo, and then some aquatic animals, because we have a lot of people who love fish and turtles and all the other things that you can find. Our cargo hold, we have to put the GPS in there so we can know where our boat is, but we wanted to put some things in from our town. So we went to the Historical Society, and they offered us a t-shirt that features their building on it, and we had them share some stories about the town of Wyndham. We have a blackout cancer shirt because that's one of our big fundraising things that we have at our football game each year. We put in a flag. We used our 3D printer. We did a state of New Hampshire and the flag. We put in some leaves, a magnet, and some currency from the United States. That QR code is going to lead you to letters that the children have written about Wyndham and about our school. So it had to be, couldn't be edible, couldn't be
Not
weigh
recommended.
a lot, couldn't weigh a lot. You should have seen the stuff that they wanted to put in. I was like, does that meet criteria? No. And it had to be a certain amount of weight. So we went with lightweight and things that would travel well. So the kids were looking at the boat and they were like, so we're gonna go to the ocean and we're gonna push the boat into the water. And I was like, children, let's think about this. If we take the boat and put it out at Hampton Beach and throw it out, what's gonna happen? And Cassie said, you should take them and try it. I said, most likely if it's
Learn
not,
by doing.
it's not going to get out far enough to be able to travel. The current in the ocean, the waves are gonna bring it right back in. So we had to find a bigger boat. So we've been working with Cassie as well as another teacher in Portsmouth to find a larger boat. And we were lucky enough to pair with Little Bay Lobster
Little Bay Lobster.
Company. And we went there today. Well, this was the 2 days ago, 3 days ago? Tuesday. We had the deck and we were gonna put other designs on it and we were like, oh, we'll have another contest. And I was like, well, and some kids suggested, what if we just sign it? So I rolled the boat into the lunchroom and all the 5th graders and 6th graders during lunch put their initials on our boat. So it's covered with all of our initials. And this is today. Here we are at Little Bay Lobster Company with the lobster fishermen that are going to take it out for us. There's Cassie. We actually sealed the cargo hold in the parking lot because our GPS wasn't fully charged. So Cassie brought us a fully charged one to put inside, and we were able to document the process of sealing up that cargo hold. And there we are. I am overjoyed because I am so glad that this boat is going on its next phase of its journey.
How long does the power last?
10 years. It's solar powered, so it's gonna hopefully last very, very long.
Hopefully.
Unlike.
Well, yeah, stay tuned. There's more. And we're excited to track our boat as it's deployed hopefully sometime next week. So that's our website. which once it's out, it will start pinging and you'll be able to see little plot points on here as Sheila will show you. And now we're at the Voyage of the Riptides.
Should we do the patch?
Do you want to do a patch tool now?
I have it up. So, we actually have tools that you can use, and you can use these at home, anybody can use these at school, and,
This is what my kids can't wait to do.
and this is what we did every day once our boat was launched. And these are the boats that are out there now. The track only shows 30 days,
Yeah,
right?
so this is the last 30 days of all mini boats that are out at sea right now. All their GPS pings are the little black dots, and the black boats are the last received location. And I was just wondering why these were grayed out, but that's because those are the Cape Cod ones that we recovered right before
Okay.
Christmas.
So if you
Um,
click on the boat, you'll get the name.
So you'll get the name, all the information, the GPS, the last known position report, the estimated speed, which is calculated based on the previous position, and the time between those 2 points. So BHS rowboat is traveling about 1 knot, which is kind of slow, which makes us think it might not have a sail anymore. We're not quite sure. It actually was all the way up here, almost headed to Iceland a few weeks ago, and now it looks like it's heading south back into the North Atlantic Drift. You'll see the HK Pride is a boat from Boston, Massachusetts, that took a journey up to Newfoundland and then was relaunched a few months ago, and it is almost in France.
Wow.
But this path analysis tool allows students to go from a passive experience to an active experience, because we also put in different layers of data from oceanographers, from models, and so we have right now the forecasted winds, and you can see the arrows.
That's
The point is the direction it's going, so basically this windstorm is doing this.
So that's a low pressure area.
So we can look and see, okay, if rowboat is over here and the winds are doing this, and if the sail is on, it's probably gonna follow that and maybe head over to Ireland, which would be so great. But if the sail's not on anymore, it might be driven more by currents. So if you can select the currents, which is more on the surface of the water, what direction might it take? And so that's gonna depend on smaller systems, because we're more at the ocean surface than big wind patterns. But it might go the same direction, it might change a little bit here. So we can look and we can make predictions. We can also look at the forecast 2 days in advance to see how it might follow those systems. Click on temperature, and then zoom out a little bit. What do you guys think of this layer? This is my favorite layer.
Oh, the kids love this one.
What is happening here with this layer? Anybody want to make some observations or guesses?
Is the purple the Gulf Stream?
The purple is cold and the red is warm, so the scale's over there on the left.
Okay.
But you're onto something where the color's changing and you see movement. So can you like shift it over a little bit
To where?
so we can see more of the warm?
Yeah. Maybe.
Where would the warm water be coming from? Why is it all down here? Where's the equator? Where the red is?
Yeah.
Right? So the Gulf Stream is here. It rides the continental shelf, which is a spot at the bottom of the ocean that drops off. And it follows that path up the coast. We're here, way up here in Florida.
Freezing water.
The Gulf Stream follows, and it moves around the Atlantic Ocean like this, like a big, let's say bathtub. It's more like, you know, when you're the stand-up pools and you're all running around trying to like make the water move, right?
Yeah.
The Atlantic Ocean's kind of like a big system like that. So our boats follow that path, and they go around normally. Sometimes they do things differently. So this
And where
is the
the-
cat tool.
Temperatures mix. They usually won't go into a colder area, not always.
Unless you're BHS rowboat, where
Yeah, I don't know.
So you zoom in here, this looks like the boat is caught in what is a warm core ring. I bet you'll see more warmer colors around it. See the green
Yeah.
in one system, where the Gulf Stream is kind of here.
Happy. And that's going around the center.
You can look at the waves too. So red color is high waves, like 3 meters, I believe, 9 feet.
And if you click on that point, it'll tell you what that value is. So wave height 3 meters, 18 knot winds right now.
Wow.
in that spot.
So this is accurate right now, so you can go check any of the boats and follow them, make your own map. It's a lot of fun.
I'll let you tell your story, 'cause I could.
Okay. So, well, that's my favorite tool, and that was the favorite part. So our little boat, we started a couple years ago and with my 5th grade class, and then COVID hit, and we all had to disappear from school. So it's like, how are we gonna finish the boat? And we had it all put together, but just not decorated. And so Cassie called and said, well, you're online, why don't we have the kids send something and email it to her? She would print them out and put it on the boat. And so that happened, and then we had the summer, and at this point, there were no ships to take it anywhere, so it just kind of sat in Cassie's backyard. So, so we had to figure out what to do next, and of course, it's the next school year, so I have a different set of kids. These kids are gonna work on it, but have never seen it. The other kids have seen it, but now they're not in my classroom. So we really had to coordinate to make sure that all groups were involved. So we did an update so that the kids could see what our boat looked like with Cassie. We did it virtually.
Before Zoom was cool.
Yeah. And then that's how our boat ended up. We had to repaint it, and so I asked my new group of kids, what color do you want? So they felt some ownership. And then they were able to put some things in the boat too. So we did leaves also, maple leaves. They wanted to do a mask, a face mask, and they put all their names on it. And we did some 3D printed things too. And you can see the designs that they did, and Cassie printed out and put on the boat. And then this is the boat that took our little boat out. It's called Sea Semester, and it's actually a classroom. So you can think about this. Some of you would be interested. You can go take the classes on there and learn how to work the boat. In this particular cruise, they were learning about the Gulf Stream. Perfect for us because we wanted to drop it in the middle of the Gulf Stream. So they were able to communicate with us and email us. So we were able to ask questions while they were on their way. That's our little boat compared to the Kramer. But we also had another boat that was there. I don't know if you can see it to the left. And that was from Northampton, Mass. And I was a little disappointed that there was going to be another boat with our boat. But it ended up being the best thing possible because we compared both boats. They were deployed at the same time, so would they go in the same direction? So that's our little boat. That's the crew and some of the teachers. We were able to track where the Kramer went. And then they told us, okay, we're gonna deploy. We're in the exact middle of the Gulf Stream and we're at the fastest part. So those are the 2 boats. We'll see if we can do this video, hopefully.
So you leave your tummies against the rail. You're actually
I can't anything to say.
perfect.
Oh, look at her go! Catching the wind, nice. Oh, she sails great.
We didn't see this video until much later, so it was nice to see the video.
walking on a beach will see messages sometimes 30 years old or more. Captain Burka, who was captaining that class, and who you saw in the video, has been dropping messages in a bottle for 20 years or so of him teaching and doing this. And so he had the chance to do this kind of live tracked message in a bottle, and he was super excited about it.
So this is where it was launched off the coast of Delaware. And if you'll notice, there's a light blue on the map and a dark blue. The light blue is the continental shelf, where it's not as deep as the ocean, the middle of the ocean. And then I have some maps for people here, and you can see where our boat started, and we're gonna ask you to predict where do you think it went, and where did the other boat go? So do you think they went together? Because the other one was dropped shortly after this. So same place, not the same place? I'm seeing a no, yes. What do you think? Yes, same place, okay. Well,
Here's that if you want to refer to the
Okay. So we made a little homework for people, and we are doing the map. These are possible, some spots where the boat went. We do know that they did go to some of them, and that's our first part of our journey. And then once it was in the water, every day in class we checked. And I know it was boring for some kids because it's like, the boat. But we had kids that would literally come in the next morning and say, did you see where it is? And sometimes our boat on the map would gray out, and that meant that the signal was lost, that maybe it was upside down, maybe it got water in it, we didn't know what had happened, and so we were hoping that at the next ping that we would see it again. And so there was all sorts of emotions. Is it gonna come up? Are we gonna see it again? And so using this PAT tool, it was just perfect. And over the months, they were able to predict with accuracy where it was gonna go within the next couple of days, week. We tried estimating for a month, but that wasn't as easy. So, so it really led into a lot of science, a lot of geography. And so this is where the two boats went. You can see the purple is our boat from Rye, and the yellow is the other boat. So in the beginning, they did start to go in the same way, but then they did veer off. So we're trying to figure out why. Same type of boat, same weather, same ocean. So what made the difference?
Butterfly.
You're right, a butterfly, absolutely, the butterfly effect. So, Cassie, you want to explain what it?
Well, I don't know the answer.
We don't.
I'm not going to know the answer until I see that boat again, but I can make a prediction.
All right.
Did I already talk about the sail being on? Right? So if we look at the winds and the sail's on rowboat, it's going to go this direction, but if it's not, it might go slower or in a different direction. We think something happened to Sojourner's Truth's sail that ended up having it ride more of the currents than the strong winds that pushed Rye Riptides through the Gulf Stream.
But if you look at it, do you think they're going to meet up in the same place? So we'll have to find out. And this is the basic currents in the oceans, the convection currents that are happening. And so we're more familiar with the Gulf Stream and the North Atlantic Drift, but there's currents all over the ocean. So time went on, and we were watching our boat, and then the summer. So we did have kids check during the summer and watch where it went. And I didn't realize this, but the custodians in our school were updating our map all the time during the summer. So I came back and it was already updated. It was pretty interesting. But it also, that was a time when I retired. So now my kids are in different grade levels. Are they still following along? So we went back and checked in with them. And 11 months later, this is where our boat was. So is that one of the places that you guessed? It was letter L. So did you get it to letter L at all? So after 11 months, I was hoping it was gonna go to Iceland. I knew some schools, some teachers at some schools in southern Iceland. It's like, oh, perfect. We'll connect with the kids. But then it went silent for a long time. And so we figured, okay, what would make it go silent? Maybe it was turned upside down and the GPS is sending its signal to the ocean. Maybe it crashed. A lot of kids think sharks would eat it, but I don't think so.
Of course.
So we had to gather evidence and try to figure out what we think might have happened. But we tried to figure out where it might go. We started looking a little more, hoping it would ping again. And wouldn't it be disappointing if it never pinged again? Well, it didn't ping in December. And then in the end of January, we got one more ping. And we found out where it was. It was at letter X on your map, which is in the country of Norway. Right. Traveled 462 days. And this is where it landed, in islands off of a small island on Smola. And it's interesting. We wanted to get it rescued and recovered, and Cassie will tell you the story.
I went to social media. Well, no, first I went to Google Maps and I put in that point to find out what was around it. Because usually you just, okay, is there somebody nearby? Is there a beach? Is there a house? What's nearby? There was actually a little B&B, like rental, that was like not too far off from that map, like over there. Found their business page on Facebook, sent them a message, that message there. The person wrote back, I'm not there, but let me see what I can do. She posted it on Smola Island Community's Facebook group, and it went, and we had Marianne Nunsik respond, who was the mother of a boy named Karel, who said, oh, Karel gets out of school this afternoon, we'll go take a look. That looks not too far from where we live. That's where he lives. It was right there. They were really not that far. So they went and they took their boat to go look and find it. So what are they looking for? When we put out the notice, we gave them the picture. What have you guys seen? What are they looking for?
5-foot boat, right?
Big, huge.
What colors? What colors was it?
Blue.
Blue. Bright sail. 6-foot-long boat. Easy peasy. You're going to pop that right out. We're going to see that. So easy. All right. So they took a video for us. Let us know when you guys spot it. You see it? What do you see? Do you see the bright colors? See reflective tape, but I don't see a blue boat.
And he doesn't think he sees it because he's looking for a big one.
He's looking for that picture we sent. Yes, that puppy's famous now.
Yeah.
What happened? What do you think happened to the boat?
Is that just the top?
What part do you think?
Hold.
Oh,
It's just the hold. It's only the hold. Yeah. Wow.
There's a close-up picture. So you can see those decorations that I put on.
They're there.
So Cassie was really good about asking someone to go out and recover an uncrewed boat. Because otherwise you're going to have people alarmed that there's someone in the boat.
Right.
So it was uncrewed.
But this is it. It's not even the full deck, right? The whole
Right, the
mast
whole
is
part
gone.
is gone.
The hull is gone. The keel is gone. But what's this part? That's the goods. That's the cargo.
Yeah.
That's where we put the GPS. So it must have been flipped over, because when it flipped itself back over, maybe in the tide, it sent one more message.
So we asked them to take it to a school. He took it to his school, and my kids were in 6th grade and 7th grade now. He's in 6th grade. And so they opened it up.
Was that for show and tell? Although it was smell and tell, because there was barnacles and it was from the ocean. We heard it was really stinky. So they opened it up. Do you guys think the stuff inside is gonna still be there? Same condition or wet and stinky? It was upside down, wet and stinky, and but it was completely dry. And there's the pictures.
So some of the leaves, all the kids wrote about our town, our state, where we are in New England. So that's them opening it up too. And of course, everything's in English, so all the kids are like, ugh, can they read it? And so
Do you wanna play a
this
little
was
bit of
our
this?
answer.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear it.
And borders both with Canada and the Atlantic Ocean. Our little piece of paradise.
Perfect English.
It's perfect English.
And
They're all
borders
bilingual.
with Canada and the Atlantic Ocean. Our little piece of paradise is.
Anyways, it was nice that they documented everything for us.
That's awesome.
And so this is our webpage, and that's the end of the story, right? Well, no. So we ended up Zooming with them, and that's all of our different classes at our school, and then their one class on Smolla. And then we ended up writing pen pal letters, so the kids are still connected. And then the Portsmouth Herald wrote an article, and then that got picked up on the AP, and then it just went everywhere. And we didn't tell you, but the Norwegian TV was there when they were opening. So it was on Norwegian TV, the national news. And so this was New Hampshire Chronicle, right?
Yeah.
And then the amazing thing is that hard hat, that landed fairly close to where our boat did about a couple of weeks later. Yeah, and it came from Maine. So more evidence of the currents and where things go. And then this right here is an environmental group that looks at plastics, and they pick up a lot of plastics along the coast of Norway. So we kind of got in touch with them, and
Well, by a lot, we're talking millions of pounds of garbage washes up on Norway coast that they have a government-funded program, and Jean is Plastic Hunters, and they're the ones that found that hard hat. So we got to connect with her and learn about other stuff that washes up there. And
the worst thing is flip-flops.
Yep.
Because people don't care about them, and they get washed into the ocean. So that's what they see all the time.
but we had a few ambassadors that we should mention
Okay.
that were your students.
Right, so I wasn't there anymore, so I had a group of students that presented to our school board. And I said, well, if they did that, then maybe they would want to present. And so that's when that group right there started to, actually, it got so many interviews. It was unbelievable.
They shared their story.
Yep. So it was on New Hampshire Chronicle, NBC Nightly News, Canadian Radio, CNN, CNN 10, which is a lot of what my students really wanted. ABC News podcasts. It was in Scholastic News. We have some copies up here. It just was crazy, crazy. And I think it was a time when a lot of people were looking for a connection across the world. That was happy news. So this is the two boats. So did they end up going the same direction? No. The other one is still stuck in the ocean, middle of the ocean.
Is it still pinging?
No. Nope. So it's been a year since that one. And do you want to talk about this one?
Oh, sure. So another New Hampshire boat from Hampstead, New Hampshire, Lexington Academy, they sent out their boat called All Hands on Deck a year ago. And just before the end of 2022, it landed in South Caicos. And there was a nearby field studies program. And they have a campus there and they do outreach programs. They helped help us figure out that the boat was picked up by a fisherman who had no idea what it was. And so we got to connect the classrooms, and those students actually sang us "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" over Zoom. It was beautiful. But this track is really interesting because everything I was saying was they're going to go to Europe, right? But remember that kind of the whirlpool? This one did that whirlpool. It went all the way around the Atlantic Ocean. For some reason, it got pushed south back there, and we should look at, well, what happened then? What was the weather doing that made it go all the way there when we kind of expected them all to go to Europe?
So now it's your turn. You can pick a boat, maybe watch the one that's going to France and see if it really will go to France. So you can go to that page or the PAT tools, and I think it's on your paper too, the explore.educationalpassages.org, and pick a boat, watch it, or pick several boats and track
Watch them all. We were also featured in Scholastic Science World, and we have a few issues here if you want to read about the full story and how the ocean currents and the global conveyor belt really affect where these boats go. We're also starting to put sensor packages on them that also have cameras. So this is the picture from the deck of another mini boat. This is in the Pacific Ocean, looking out. And so we're starting to have students collect information about how these boats are moving so we can learn about how the oceans are changing.
We have podcasts.
We have a podcast. Have a listen, telling stories from students, from researchers. We also do mini boat traffic reports. So if you don't want to check out the map, you can just listen to a podcast episode and I'll tell you what's happening. And if you want to be on a podcast or get involved or want a topic for us to talk about, let us know. Join the adventure.
Are there any questions? Yes.
Did your boat ever encounter storms? Like, were you ever able to tell that it hit a storm, and how? Did you know that because you knew there was a storm in the area and then you watched what your boat did, or could you tell by its motion after a while that it was?
Yeah, we could see the storms going across. Actually, because we live in New England, we could watch some of the storms on us and then move out into the ocean. And we were able to see that they were going to get caught up and move in a certain direction. So we did. And we think that's maybe one of the reasons. It was out in the ocean somewhere, and it literally got on an island. So how did it get on an island? There must have been a big push or a big wave somehow that actually got it there and flipped it up right side up.
We also noticed behavior of the GPS change in August, which was a month before that last ping, before the 4-month quiet. And looking back at what the weather was at the time, that was hurricane season. I mean, there was definitely something there that broke that mast, that made that boat flip over and break. Also, just last year, we had a camera on one of the boats where Hurricane Danielle went through, and you could see the boat completely on its side. So the more evidence you can gather, the more you can see how these storms are really something.
And the importance of a keel to write it.
Yes.
Write it
Yeah.
afterwards.
If it's attached.
Right.
Are there any variations in the boat? Like, are you always sending out the same boat? And, no offense, but I wonder about, like, you're relying on, like, 5th and 6th graders to construct it, whether, you know, that, like, is it sealed? Is it operational? Why does one mast break and another not?
I love that question. That's like keeps the mystery of my life. So the boat design hasn't changed much in 10 years. It's a 56-foot long built-in cargo hold, is a couple years older.
56 inches.
I don't know what I said. It's not that long. Mini
Looks
boat.
much smaller on screen.
Yeah.
Friday night. It's specially designed by a naval architect to specifically write itself if it is weighing a certain amount with that keel and the weight in a certain amount in the back and the mast and the sail up front. So there's certain kind of specs that we want to keep the same. And it's a little risk that we take to say, okay, here kids, seal it up, do it yourself. But I think that's part of the kind of the learning and like letting them build the confidence in themselves and skills to see how important it is to seal that cargo hold up. So, and that's part of why this program's needed, I think. If that helps answer your
You
question.
just double check Sheila to make sure it was sealed.
Well, when we put it on the Korth Kramer, it was not sealed. They actually did it for
Yeah.
us because they needed it small and compact to take it on board their ship because they had two of them. So they actually finished the whole routine.
Yeah.
So today when they were sealing up hers, I was like, wait, I don't remember doing
Yeah,
this
yeah,
because I
yeah,
hadn't done it.
yeah.
But one of the things that came up with our classroom is, are we just adding junk to the ocean?
Yeah.
You know, so the answer is yes, but is it something that we can learn from? And absolutely, we can know more about our ocean because of it. Did we intend it to break apart? No.
Right. My answer is no, because we're trying to make them as strong as possible, make those improvements so that they're not breaking
Right.
and that everything's surviving. The new GPS transmitters, we kind of alluded to that solar panel now versus, so Sheila's GPS, it was, we were at the mercy of when it was going to report. If it was going to report, have at it. We only use the new transmitters we can actually talk to. So when they get closer to land, we can actually say, start reporting every hour. And we can then be like, okay, hey, your boat's going to land here. Can you go get it for us? And avoid rocky coasts as much as we can. So that's part of STEAM, right? We're always trying to improve and do things better. And the boats are getting sent out with the sensors so that we can collect as much information from those voyages as we can. as
And
well.
what, 74%,
75.
75% are
Making land. Yep.
recovered and then launched again.
82% last year was recovered, so we're getting better.
So you said a little bit, oh, sorry. You said a little bit before that your students wanted to make some interesting choices to send in their cargo. What were some of those interesting?
They wanted to put food. A lot of it was
Candy.
food,
Yeah.
candy, things like that, yeah. And we said that, we looked at the data, like Sheila's boat was out for 430-something days. Do you want a cookie that's been in the cargo hold for 400?
Yeah, if you don't seal it all the way, and I will tell you an example of that boat with the camera on it that ended up in Hawaii, they didn't open it for a while, and it was not exactly sealed, and there was food inside. I'll leave it at that,
Ew.
which is why we don't encourage that.
We don't encourage that.
That might attract the sharks.
Yes.
There you go.
The candy.
Well,
We
thank
got
you.
any boats coming this way?
Probably hers next week, if there's a big, no, I'm just kidding,
No, that's not right.
That's a whole nother talk on the Gulf of Maine. Could have another evening event to discuss how that system keeps things in the Gulf of Maine and they
Doesn't
report
like
back,
to let
but.
it
Did you mean, are they being sent from the other side?
No, I'm just wondering if, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean,
Sure,
keeping
so
them
you train
relaunch
some
as much as
people.
possible, so when they get to the other side, we want them to send it back. But when they do, they have to get it far enough out where that system can kind of send it back, like the one that went in the South,
Tell them about
to South
Pogo.
Caicos.
So the ones that are being launched. So there's one in South Africa that was launched, and what else?
Yeah, we launched 4 with a global oceanographer group from 4 different countries. The South Atlantic launches, 2 of them landed in the Ivory Coast. 1 is in Guyana on a sandy beach, and we're waiting for those people to recover it. And one from the Canary Islands is still at sea. So that kind of lower. We also launched one December 1st. The Lancer was a relaunch, actually, from Connecticut, first sent in 2016, on its way back from the Canary Islands, which will probably come to the Caribbean, or in the Gulf Stream back up here. Don't know.
Do any get picked up at sea? Like, do boats see them and think like, is this something I should pick up? And then they pick it up and then do they relaunch from where they're at? Do they bring them home? What happens?
All of the above. It's a mix. Sometimes they'll just spot them, take a picture, let us know. Sometimes they'll pick them up, bring them home, and not know what they are, like the South Caicos one. You know, they weren't able to read what it was on the deck, and they had no idea until we were able to approach them and say, hey, it's an educational project. All of those things have happened. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Very
Yay.
interesting.
If you wanna come up and get some of the things on the table, you're welcome to.
What's the cost to get involved?
It varies. So it can start about 5,000, but depending on sensors and some other pieces to it. But for Belmont, you're thinking? We can talk and we can write grant or something. She wrote a grant. You
Well,
wrote a grant, right?
we took Sheila's grant and worked it.
Yeah.
To get them on.
So we work with schools to work out that price point so that that's not the barrier to participation is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And does a launch come with you?
Um,
Yes, sold with the deal.
Yes, my heart and
Yes.
soul comes with the program. That's without being said. We have teams and workbooks where we're trying to have the students do more of that work. I'm happy to provide advice and contacts, but as much as possible, I want it to come from the students. But we do help with that.
And this one did come with students, right, from Portsmouth, right?
Yeah, Emily's students did some research. They found this lobster company